Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the brand new business podcast. Thanks for being here. Please, can you just tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do?
Hi, Trudy. Thank you so much for inviting me to chat with you this morning. So my business is called Lisa Newport Style, and I've also got a new strand to my business called the Fab Network, which stands for Female, Authentic and Ballsy. So I've got two slightly different elements going on there. My main business, the style business, is about helping women feel empowered using the language of colour and clothes so that they absolutely feel 100% comfortable in their own skin. And the extension of that, so broadening that out a little bit wider, is how the Fab Network came about, because quite often women particularly, don't invest in themselves, but they're happy to invest in their business. And I'm absolutely, when you're a personal brand, when you are your business, I'm absolutely passionate that you need to feel the bee's knees to be able to then be your absolute most successful best in business. So it's kind of like the Fab Network is the step before people might think about working with me on their personal style. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely makes sense. I mean, I'm all about branding as well, so I completely get it. So two different types of branding. Yours is very much on the personal side, but it is that thing about feeling confident, the feeling that you look right. That goes so far to giving you confidence to go far. So yeah, absolutely get that.
But I have a made up word, which is confidence,
Yeah.
which is, it came about one time I was chatting with a client years ago. And I said, it's all about feeling comfortable and confident in your own skin. And I sort of got the words mixed up and came up with confidence. And it's really stuck because people get that. So the whole thing is, that if you feel, if you put an outfit on that makes you feel good, you sort of stand taller, you sort of look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, yes, and you walk out of the house that day when you're feeling really good,
yeah,
with an air of confidence about you, and things then, you're a bit more Teflon coated, things don't bother you in the same way, and you really do feel in your power. So my work is about helping you do that on purpose daily, rather than it being a one-off, sort of it might happen just because you found something by accident. It's kind of understanding how to put an outfit together in such a way that it gives you that $1 million feeling. I call it a stylegasm. So you get a little stylegasm.
You've got all the words.
I've got all the words. I make words up all the time, but people
Brilliant.
get it. You know what it's like when you stand and you sort of want to swish about a little bit and do the happy dance. It's that kind of feeling. So when your whole wardrobe gives you that feeling, it's kind of, your rate of having success, having a good day and doing what you want to, achieving what you want to achieve that day increases.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So there you go.
And how long have you been in business? When did you start?
I started this business officially on December the 1st, 2014. I'd been playing at it a little bit for about 6 months before then. I'd been dabbling and sort of planning and plotting, but my official start date was 2014. So what's that? It'll be 8 years this year.
Yeah, no, that's great. And in those 8 years, how far would you say that you've come in terms of what you set out to achieve versus where you are?
What's been really interesting over the 8 years, Trudy, is the fact that my business has been a journey for me, as well as anything else, as well as my clients. I started my business because I'd hit rock bottom. I'd had a couple of experiences that really affected me in my mental health, in terms of my work. My husband of 23 years, that relationship ended, and it was just really, I was in a really low place, and I needed something that would work for me and help me sort of rebuild myself and my confidence. So I'd done similar kind of work in the community years before, working with women and empowering them through various teaching. I was teaching them. It's called health and beauty, but I could more or less do anything, but it was about confidence. And I'd really loved that. And my friend said to me, what would you do then if you could do anything that would make your heart sing? What would you do? And I thought back to this time. I said, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that as a full-time job, make a business out of doing that. And that's basically what I set about doing to help other people. But it was also about me rebuilding from where I was, because I really needed something that would make my heart sing and not drain me, and just give me that feeling, just feel rewarded when I was doing my work, because I'd been so crushed by what from where I was really rock bottom. So it was kind of, that was how I set about. So the journey, I've probably had 8 years of personal growth as well as business growth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
And because my work is about identity and helping people be more themselves, I have to be on that journey myself and be more myself. So every sort of, I keep having these sort of, I don't know, evolutions, if you like. And I'm like, right, more myself, more myself, more myself. And that's how the Fab Network has actually come about, because I got to a place where I couldn't find anywhere that I was really 100% loving in terms of networking, where I felt I could really be myself, and it was okay to be sort of, have a bad day and not be, oh yeah, how's business? Oh yeah, it's all great, because sometimes it's not. And sometimes I think in networking, you feel like you have to put a show on and you have to be, the face of your business all the time and show that it's going really well. And I just wanted somewhere where people could be a bit more honest and a bit more open. So the whole Fab networking thing came about as another sort of layer of the onion peeling off, really, and creating a space where it is about community and support and empowerment, and for women to, but really, be themselves. So it's kind of that's the journey, in as much as, so in answer to your original question, yes, I've gone a long way to achieving what I set out to achieve, but there's still a lot more to do.
There's always a lot more to do. There's always a lot more to do. So this time 8 years ago, you said that you were rock bottom. Had you spent a lot of time? Because for me, before I started my business, which was for me, it was 2006, I was probably very unhappy for a good few years, like years, before I said to myself, come on, this has got to change. And so I'm going to guess that for you, it's probably the same thing, because you don't end up one day at rock bottom. You keep tumbling until you hit it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, looking back now, I didn't realize, and I blog about this quite often, I've written about it in my book and everything, I didn't realize how bloody miserable I was. I thought that was normal, how I was feeling in my job, in my marriage. I thought that was normal, because it was kind of, it had come on, it crept up gradually, sort of, you start off with something, and I started off with my job and I felt great, I felt really confident and successful, and then gradually in my work I was getting more and more unhappy. I got promoted to, so basically I was teaching. I started off teaching. I was teaching art in a prison environment, which was quite a difficult environment to work in anyway. So I started off in there teaching art, and that was fine. I was getting that reward, that feeling fulfilled in what I was doing. Then I got promoted. I got offered a full-time job, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, this is good, and it was middle management. And then I ended up being the manager of the education department. So there was no connection anymore with individuals in terms of helping them achieve what they wanted to achieve. I was actually working all to targets. It was all about finances. The most creative thing in my day was putting colours on spreadsheets and doodling in long, boring meetings. And it was all about unattainable targets, really. And it was so stressful. And the pressure on me to get this department working against all the odds was so great. And also, meanwhile, my husband and I we probably should have split up a lot earlier than we actually did, but we were, we just sort of like carried on living separate lives, really. it was just, I was living quite a miserable existence. And with my work, I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning, not able to get back to sleep, really stressed, and running through my agenda for the day in my head at 4:30 in the morning. And it was a really pretty miserable way to be, but I felt really trapped by the money. And I'd got because I was working in a teaching environment, I'd got really good holidays and a good pension, and it was kind of like I couldn't see that there was an alternative. It was only when something quite horrible happened to me at work, and it was kind of like it made the decision for me, really. And then at the same time, like I say, my husband was having an affair and decided to leave, and it was all like, oh, okay. So I could have, it did break me, but I just thought, well, this is like a chance for a fresh start. What can I actually, how can I create the kind of life that is better for me, and my son? So it was kind of, it was one of those things where I sort of had to protect myself. I thought, I'm not putting myself in a position again where I can be dictated to about what I do and when I do it, and feel so, it made me ill. I was taking antidepressants, I was on beta blockers, and it was kind of, I was on heavy duty drugs. So it wasn't great. So it was very much, I think things happen to you, you get a memo from the universe, and if you don't listen, you get another memo from the universe, something happens again. And until and if you're not listening and taking in and recognizing the signs, something's really going to sideswipe you. And that's what happened to me. The signs were all there, I was probably ignoring them, and then it was like a big like, here you go, have this.
I think the saddest thing is that there are so many people who have to actually hit that bottom rung before they say, oh, this isn't me, this isn't what I want, this is not the life that I intended. Because of like exactly what you just said, the money, the health insurance, the holidays, these things feel so important. You don't think that you can ever get them in any other way. This is how I make this money. This is what I do. And the thought of like, well, what if I could do something else? What would that be? And most people have no clue. So how did you work it out? How did you think, well, maybe I could do this? Because from prison, from working in a prison atmosphere to working with women, and yeah, how does that happen?
It's so my if I go right back to my background, I in school I was absolutely convinced from 14 onwards I wanted to be a TV special effects, theatre, film, makeup artist. That's what I wanted to do. So I've always been good at arts, always, that was always a thing. When I was little, I loved colouring in, and I loved playing at teachers as well. So when I was little, it's kind of like colouring in, really good at art, like playing at teachers, so, and it's kind of like, okay, so the makeup thing was always an obsession as well. I remember giving myself a black eye when I was about 8 years old, going to Brownies. I've been in my mum's makeup bag, and my mum let me go to Brownies with this pretend black eye, and Brown Owl said, oh, and I was really chuffed because I thought she believed that it was a real black eye. It's like 8 years old.
Oh, you.
But so that was kind of where I was heading, and I chose creative A levels. I found a course that you could do, and for some reason you had to be 21. I'm going back to the late early 80s, but you had to be 21 to do this course. I thought, okay, well, I'll do A levels, I'll go to college, do my A levels, and I was studying art, I was studying fashion, and I was doing English lit as well, but I dropped that because I found it a bit boring, and then started doing textile design. But also as well, I managed to wangle my way onto this makeup course at evening class, don't know how, that was for hairdressers, but hairdressers doing makeup. So it wasn't special effects makeup, it was to do, so they could add a strand to their business and do hair and makeup for weddings and things. And I managed to talk myself onto this course, so I did that as well. While I was doing that course, I realized, oh, you've got to be standing up all the time when you're doing makeup. I've got a dodgy hip that I've had since birth. I'm not going to be able to do this. Meanwhile, at art college, this new teacher came who was textile design, textiles and surface pattern. She really, really inspired me. So I love that. So I ended up going off instead of the makeup thing. I dropped that dream and went into textiles and fashion design. That's what my degree is in. I then became a designer. So not, like you said, pretty much like yourself, there's a lot of similarities between graphic design and surface pattern and printed textiles. So it's all about color and composition and stuff like that. I was working as a designer, and I got obsessed at that time as well with colour analysis, which is something my mum had done, and it was something that Ladies Who Lunch did. It was a real thing in the 80s. So park all that. I'm doing my designing. I get a job working as a lecturer in art college, teaching students how to design. Do that for several years. Get pregnant. Decide I don't want to go back to work full time. I can't leave my little boy. And in comes Party Plan. So I don't know if you remember Virgin V Cosmetics.
I've heard you talk about it before.
Yeah, so it was basically Tupperware parties with makeup under the Richard Branson Virgin umbrella, and skincare and makeup. And it was absolutely amazing stuff. And I thought, I could do this while Finn's at school, while he's in bed, going out doing parties. So I did that. And I did that for several years. So that brought the makeup side back in. And I was working with women, and it was just so much fun. We had, it was women empowering women, and it was all about achieving goals. And, everybody was doing the party plan for different reasons. For some, it was just to go on holiday. People like me, it was to replace a full-time income so that I was there for my son when, I didn't have to put him in childcare and so on. So I did this party plan for a while, and then that fizzled out. They got taken over, and it was all a bit like, and I was a bit like, by this time my son was 8, and I thought, what can I do? And that's how I ended up at the prison, because they were advertising for this art teacher. So it's kind of like, it sounds really random, but there are links. So that's when I started as the art teacher. And then, that I did that for another 7 or 8 years, and then that sort of ended. So it was kind of like, I've got skills in makeup, I've got skills in colour, fashion, textiles. So it was kind of like, I love working with women. The colour analysis was great. I had a little windfall. I trained to do that. So it was bringing all of that together into a business that I thought, well, this is, all of this stuff can really help people. But also from a personal point of view as well, I'd gained a lot of weight. When I was pregnant with my son, I gained around 5 stone, and I'm still carrying that weight today. He's 22 now. And I went through a period when I was having all this rubbish time, before I started even working at the prison. I was having a really rubbish time with my self-esteem and my self-worth and my identity, and I was blaming it all on my weight. And I got to a point where I was so miserable, my friend had, well, let's go out. We're going out for such and such a buddy's birthday. And I'd be standing in front of the wardrobe, and I'd be trying things on, and everything made me feel crap. I felt crap in everything. And I'd be like so stressed and hot and bothered by the time. I'd be like going out of the door thinking I'd rather not be going out than have this, I felt so rubbish about myself. So it was kind of, once I'd learned about the colour and stuff, and how to put my clothes on a diet, really, instead of wearing big baggy things all the time, I sort of started to wear things that fitted better, and it really changed how I felt about myself. So there's all that tied up as well. I thought, if I'm standing in front of my wardrobe feeling stressed about, I've got nothing to wear, even though my wardrobe's full, then other people feel that way too. So it was kind of just bringing all that together, and then that question that my friend asked me, if you could do anything that would make your heart sing, what would you do? And it was kind of like, well, I can do anything I want. What's the worst that can happen? And that was how I sort of just bringing everything together, really, that I've all my life experience and skills from all the different work I've done, really. So that's kind of how it all came about.
And I think in life, there's always that tipping point, isn't there, of like, you think you're happy, you think you're happy, you think you're happy, you're not. There's always that kind of, then, and there has to be that lever of, well, if not now, then when? It has to be now. The time is now. And I think for different people, it's different scenarios. Like being made redundant, that's almost an easy one then, because that's a great catapult into
Yeah.
starting your own business. Like, I've been given that universe message, it's coming through loud and clear with them. But for other people, it's not quite so definitive as somebody pushing you. You actually have to push yourself and say, enough is enough. This isn't what I want anymore. And actually there is something else out there, and I can see it, and I know what it is, and I'm going to do it. I know from my own perspective, like I said to you, I was unhappy for quite a few years, but then it still took a couple of really pivotal moments of quite feeling really awful. Like, my business partner said to me, one of my pivots was like, we were having a slight disagreement, I suppose, about what the business should be doing and what he should be doing in the business and what I should be doing in the business. And he just literally threw at me like, well, what is the point of you? What is the point of you? That was one of my little catapults.
And I think that there has to be something that there has to be like that straw that breaks the camel's back to give you the strength, I think, to make it, which is a big decision, to walk away from something, whatever it is, and move out of your comfort zone. It's a big decision. And I think having the right people around you makes a massive difference. Having a good support network, makes such a difference. You need to surround yourself by people who can see your vision. I've sort of like broken up, if you like, with quite a few friends when I, said, right, I'm going to go into business. And friends were, oh, well, don't you think you should get yourself a little part-time job just to back it, and yeah, they might have been being sensible, but I'm thinking, but if I do that, I won't be able to put all my energy into what I want to do and make it successful, and they didn't believe in me. It wasn't the fact that they were looking out for me. It was the fact that they didn't believe in me that made me think, we need to I need to create a distance because you're too negative. I need more positivity in my life. And I think that was a big thing for me as well. When before I started my business and when I was at rock bottom, I did some Reiki training. I discovered the law of attraction and how the impact of your thoughts can, change how you feel. And so I've been on quite a spiritual journey as well, I think, over the last 8 years. And I don't suffer negativity in my life. I don't put up with crap that I used to. I have better boundaries these days for myself, and that makes a big difference. Really does make a big difference. And I think that's hard, especially if it's family who don't have that belief in you, or sowing seeds of doubt. It's hard to stay strong unless you've got that good support network,
Yeah, so important to have. You don't want a yes man. You don't want somebody who's going to say to you, oh yes, Julie, that's a great idea, do it, Julie. If it's not. But on the other hand, you don't need people telling you, no, play it safe, do this, because that this is a guaranteed for that, but that it's not going to make you happy. So yeah, you need to surround yourself with people who are positive and believe in you, and who can feed your need almost. For somebody
Absolutely.
to just prop you up a little bit, going out on your own has to be your decision, it has to be you. But in the same time, we're not an island either, so we need that support. We need those people behind us to cheer us on. I mean, I'm so lucky. My husband is my biggest cheerleader ever.
Same here. Since my ex and I split up, I quite, it wasn't that long before I met Paul, my current husband. Hopefully I won't have any more. But yeah, it wasn't that long, and that speaks volumes in itself that I was ready for a relationship fairly soon after the last one split up, because I didn't realize how bloody miserable I was and how it wasn't right for me. So but meeting Paul, and he's being so supportive, he absolutely is. But he doesn't understand necessarily business or what I do or anything, but he backs me up and will listen when I'm talking. But I think the thing is, you've got your mind monkeys are negative enough, aren't they, at times? You've got those little doubts in there, and they sort of creep in, and your self-talk can be, put doubts in your mind enough without other people adding to that. So I think, again, back to the Fab Network, that's part and parcel of why, I think I've really valued networking and being part of a community over the last few years. I didn't even know what networking was when I first started my business. I've never heard of it. It's kind of, what people meet for breakfast and talk about work. It seemed like a really random sort of concept to me. But when I got involved in networking, that the support and the camaraderie, when you feel, when you find the right one, is brilliant. But again, it's like I say, I'd got to a point just before lockdown actually where I thought I need to move on. I'm trying to, and I was been trying to find something for a couple of years that was the right place for me, and I couldn't find it. So I thought, well, if I can't find it, I'll create it. So, and that's about that support and just feeling that somebody's got your back and somebody gets it, when you're having a crap day, because it's hard sometimes being self-employed, it's a lonely world, that somebody gets it, but it doesn't mean it's like the end of the world, so it was just a crap day, and you can have a moan about it, somebody gets it, and then you can move on.
I think networking is fab, not just for your fab, but just the support that you can get, because it is daunting going out and being in business by yourself, and people actually get really daunted by networking, but actually what it is a whole bunch of people doing what you're doing. And it's not about, and I've spoken to lots of people who said like, oh, I don't fancy networking, I don't know how I would sell me, I don't know how I would sell my business. And I'm always the first one to say, well, don't. You don't need to go along and sell. You need to go along and say, hey, my name's Trudy, tell me about you, tell me what you do, what services do you offer, let's get to know each other that way. And that works so much better than saying like, buy me. It's not.
People don't like being sold to generally, do they? And it's just all a bit that kind of person who comes into a networking situation and is like, and sees you as a walking wallet. It's a turn off for most people, so it's much better to build relationships and connection. And that's where I come from when I'm, and I know you do, when we talk about networking. It's much more about the community spirit and the support and the being able to, okay, so I need a bit of advice about that, you can help me with that, and then I can help you with this, and it's about giving, and sort of giving more than you actually take, I think, is the best way to get a good reputation and to build that know, like, trust factor. Because people buy from people they like, don't they? You don't buy from people you don't like.
Exactly. And I think in terms of being able to match people up as well, it's really useful. So people come to me all the time and say, oh, Judy, you know everybody, who would you use for this or that? And I'm thinking like, I know a solicitor who does this, or I know an accountant who does that, or I've met people who specialize in mortgage brokerage, insurance, and you just know people. So you want somebody, who you can go to, and you, like you say, know, like, trust. So huge, big thing, networking. Absolutely love it. And it is a massive resource, basically, and a way to go and meet people and make friends. I've got some really nice mates now from my networking.
Oh, we would have never have met if it hadn't have been through networking. It was like tenuously, wasn't it? But it was through someone else's group that we sort of have met, so.
And even on LinkedIn, I mean, that's how, networking is fantastic face to face, but the next best thing for me is being on LinkedIn, and I see you every day, and I'm like, oh, at least
I know, that's the thing, isn't it? I was scared of LinkedIn for years, and then a couple of years ago I thought, right, now I'm gonna, I was always a big Facebook, Facebook was always my thing. I still like Facebook, but once Facebook got to a point where it's kind of like you sort of like get capped from Facebook if you don't want to spend money with them. It's kind of, And I thought, well, I'm going to focus. I'm going to do this LinkedIn thing, and I'm going to do it properly, and I'm going to focus on it. And it's been fantastic. You know, I actually look forward to seeing what people post, and, you know, getting engaged in conversations with people. And you do feel like you know people. And then
Yeah.
when you actually meet them, even if it's only on Zoom,
Yeah.
you know, you've already got that connection. You kind of know what's been going on, or what, you know, where their values are and stuff, just by their content and what they post. And yeah, it is a big networking platform worldwide. I've got, you know, people in my community now from all over the world, and most of them have it's because I've met them through LinkedIn.
I
So
really.
it's yeah, it's a great, and it's free.
I know.
Yeah, it's free.
Bargain. It just takes time to invest, really. I mean, I spend about an hour every morning on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
It's
same
what I
here.
do. I like roll out of bed, literally, stumble into my office and put my post up and get commenting, you know,
Yeah.
and it's all
I don't
about,
even get that far, Trudy. I do mine while I'm in bed.
yeah.
I call it my horizontal office. It eases me into the day. I get a coffee. Paul always brings me a coffee, and I get on LinkedIn, and it's my horizontal office. So all my posts, if you imagine, like, next time you're
Oh
reading my post,
no,
he's
your
in a
secrets
pajama.
out there. I'll be like, what color pajamas are you in? And we'll be like, you weird person. I will.
So yeah,
So
and I think the thing is as well that I'm really passionate about, you know, I was 50 when I started my business, and it's kind of like people, it's like a newly, I think getting to 50 as well is a big turning point for people. Menopause, hitting 50, that's kind of like a real turning point for a lot of women. A lot of the women I meet all say the same. You know, it's kind of, it's not a time for winding down. It's a new phase. It's a different phase. It's quite liberating. And it's kind of, you get to that point where you just think, actually, I'm not prepared to put up with this crap anymore. I'm going to do something for me. And I think that's worth mentioning, because some
yeah.
people, you know, think, oh, this is it now until I retire, and it's like, doesn't have to.
Well, what's the name? Colonel whatchamacallit, who started Kentucky
Kentucky
Fried
Fried,
Chicken when he
yeah,
was 76 or something ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
yeah, 50 is 50 schmifty. I
yeah.
think it has to be there. If there is a right time, what time is it? The time is now, whatever that time
Yeah.
is. The
And
time is,
there's never a right time. It's, so just get on with it anyway.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It's just got to happen. Like the whole, you can spend years procrastinating, getting all your ducks in a row, working things out, but at some point you just have to do it. And I
Well, this,
suppose, I mean, you know, at 50, you might be you might err on the side of, well, if it's not now, it's never. You know, that's kind of, it's got to be done.
I posted on LinkedIn about this the other day, about that, not having my ducks in a row and everything, and this whole networking thing. I've been thinking about it, like I say, it's been back in my mind for a couple of years. I've looked into a couple of different franchise opportunities and different things, and there was something stopping me. I was thinking, oh, it's not quite, you know. So there was obviously, you know, there's a reason why I wasn't going ahead with it. And I was chatting with my coach about it, and she's like, well, just do your own, just do your own. I was like, oh no, you know, it'll take away from my business. Oh no. And then this one weekend, it was the beginning of March, this weekend, I had a bit of a wobble, and I was like, oh, it was all that. I was on a bit of a downer. And I remember thinking, oh, it's not fair. I'm trying so hard. I'm trying to find something, and it's not happening. And I can't find it. And then I just thought, and then the following morning, I thought, right, that's it. I'm just going to get on with it. I'm just going to do it. And I it was funny because I said to my husband, it was early afternoon, and I opened a bottle of prosecco. It's Sunday afternoon that weekend.
Oh,
I
yeah,
said, I'm
you.
celebrating, and he's like, well, what are you celebrating? I'm celebrating because I'm going to start a new strand to my business. He was like, oh. And I went and I sat in the bath with this prosecco, glass of prosecco, and I just started writing. And I was on my phone, and I just like tapping away, and I did this, I call it now my Prosecco Festo, I call it.
I love
And
all
it
of
was
your
just,
words.
I just really wrote from the heart and said, you know, I'm doing this because I can't find anywhere, and it's for women who are this, and it's for women who are that, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote all this long thing, and I posted it on LinkedIn at 4 o'clock that afternoon. then went and created a Facebook group. And by 4 o'clock the following afternoon, I'd got 84 members from this post on LinkedIn that I'd written after a couple of glasses of Prosecco. And I just thought, well, it's obviously hit a nerve, it's obviously the right thing. People want what I'm talking about. And at the time originally I called it 50ish authentic and ballsy. So that's what FAB stood for, 50ish authentic and ballsy. And then I thought, as I started thinking about it, and I realized that it could be something that, could really become a thing. It could be my legacy. It could be something that could grow. I can have, groups all over the country. It could be international. And I thought it could be something that could live on after me. Whereas my style business can't really, because it depends on me doing it. And I thought, well, and I was chatting with my coach about it, and I thought, well, 50ish, I'm nearer to 60 than 50 actually. So, that I'm going to outgrow my own business if I'm not careful. So I just thought I'll change the F to female, because, and also as well, I've got lots of women who are younger than that, who were kind of like, oh, it sounds brilliant, but I'm not old enough yet. And so it's sort of like it changed from 50ish authentic and ballsy to female authentic and ballsy for that reason, so that I can leverage and scale, and it can grow. Yeah. So but yeah, that was I thought that was a funny thing, because it's kind of, you just do things sometimes, you just think, right, seize the day, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And I didn't have all my ducks in a row. It was kind of like I hadn't thought it through really. I just kind of just did it, and then I've been like winging it ever since, and I'm sort of saying to people, I've got paid members now, and it's kind of like, well, there's a discount because I'm not quite ready yet to get started. It's kind of that's just how it is. So I don't think you always do need to have your ducks in a row. You just got to go with it. If it feels right, you've just got to go with it.
Absolutely. Well, look at my podcast. I'm not.
I know.
I'm doing the interviews, but I haven't got much of anything else sorted yet. I'm just like, I'm so excited about getting people on board and say, oh, I know this person and they've got a great story. And I love your story about the whole prison service to wardrobes, and it's like mad, crazy, and so many people I come across got such inspirational stories. So
Everybody's got a story. We've all got a story to tell, and I think the stories are what helps the connection. When you start telling your story, and people, it resonates with people, and they can, they think, oh, okay, so I know when we shared our stories, it was kind of like that's another level of connection, isn't it? You kind of, you think, oh, okay, well, we've been through, there's that similarity in terms of being, having that straw that breaks the camel's back, and so many people have got them. It's just sharing those stories, and it gives hope to other people as well. If you can inspire one person just by the fact that, you can say, well, this happened to me, but this is now what I'm doing because of that, then it's sort of, I get lots of messages from people, really lovely messages that make me feel a bit like, I get like little leaky eyes sometimes when people say, oh, I love that you've, and it's usually when I've shared something, personal about my weight or depression, or, something that is part of me in my life. My dodgy hip, or whatever it is, and the trauma that I've been through because of that, or and that's the bit that connects people and makes people, you think, oh, there's a human person there behind this LinkedIn post or this Facebook group, or
there is. We're all just normal people, just normal everyday people with everyday problems. Depression is not necessarily an everyday problem, but so many people are struggling, so many people suffer, so many people are in a place where they feel stuck, that this is it for me, when actually it's not it. There's more. There's so much more. We can be so much more always. And even when we're doing the thing that we want to do, we can still be more. And I'm a big believer in that. And I love all the self-development. And I'm reading all the books and listening to all the audio books and podcasts, and there's so much inspiration out there. And I'm thinking, we can be the person that we need to be, that we want to be, that we aspire to be. We are that person. We are that person. We just need to let them out. So yeah,
Absolutely,
let's get
absolutely.
fabulous. Okay, Lisa. So how do people contact you? How do they get in touch with you if they want to be part of your network, if they want to read your book? Where are you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, obviously.
Yeah, Lisa
But
Newport.
my website is lisanewportstyle.com. And all my products and services are on there. There's lots of free stuff in terms of blogs and things. I'm a big believer in, sort of sharing my knowledge. So there's lots of free stuff. You can get a real feel about who I am and how I work, how I do my work through my website. All my book's available on Amazon, or it's available direct from me if you want a personalized message. And the Fab Network, all that's on my website too, or find me on Facebook. The Fab Network's on Facebook. There is a free community, a private Facebook group, the Fab Network group on Facebook, and then people can join and be paid members of that network if they want to, but there's still the free community stuff's going on anyway, so. But yeah, lisanewportstyle.com is the best place to find me.
Amazing. And I've got a personal recommendation for the Fab networking group, because I was there yesterday and met some amazing women, and I picked up 2 other podcast guests as well from being there. Just people with great stories, amazing careers, and yeah, just great to get over there and meet people and share stuff. So
I think
yeah,
it's
definitely come on over.
Yeah, I'm loving it. And the free community gives a real sense of the vibe of the group as well. And then the actual meetings are just an extension of that, where we've got our next face-to-face one is in September, but that in Nottingham at the moment. But this time next year, who knows where we'll have groups.
Yay. Okay, well, thank you, Lisa. I hope this story has inspired you. I hope that this story has given you some information and some knowledge and some action points to just get out there and do the thing that it is that you know that you can. And I will see you again next week. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much for having me, Trudy.